Was it understood by the people, like most voters in Myanmar, that that was just very clearly stated that that is the military's political party? Or were there people in Myanmar who were very strongly for it?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's hard to know exactly what to make of this proxy party called the USDP, because on one hand, they are the military's party, but they're also an opposition party now. And so if you're going to oppose the NLD, the main party, from the right, and in the sense of wanting more, maybe less concessions to ethnic minority groups, if you want a tougher, general approach to things like law and order, you might support them without supporting the military itself, and certainly without supporting a coup. So one of the questions that, there's a list of 1,000 long of things that we don't know. And I think that's something that's really important for our many listeners out there to keep in mind, is that anyone like me who comes on talking about stuff related to Myanmar right now, you have to know, and many of them won't be as honest as I am, but we're mostly full of it. Like, we just don't know a lot of the reasons why this has occurred. So we're speculating. We're reading the tea leaves the same way that people have been doing in Myanmar for a long time, trying to figure out why exactly this occurred. And let me talk a little bit about why that's an interesting question, because you might say, well, yeah, power's nice. Why not take it back? Well, here's the interesting issue, is that the military kind of had the best of both worlds under the last 10-year scenario, because they were able to have a putatively democratic government, right, led by a Nobel laureate, democratically elected, and they were able to do all the things they wanted to do. They were able to commit genocide against the Rohingya people, and then Aung San Suu Kyi got blamed for it. It's not to say she wasn't culpable. She certainly got out in front of that issue and basically created no daylight between herself and the military. So her country was accused of genocide, and she went to the International Court of Justice in The Hague to defend the country. She didn't have to do that. She basically said, you guys want to put a face on this genocide? Make it be mine, which is a very bold and obviously terrible move.
Why would she do that? Like, why do we think she would do that? She's seen as this, this almost goddess of peace, right? And humanitarianism around the world. And then it's like the rug got pulled out from underneath her feet in this one moment. Like, why would she take such, I don't know if it's risk or what?
So I have a short article where I studied on this, and I actually compared her to a World Wrestling Federation heel turn, right? Where the person who's supposed to be a good guy takes off the mask and is actually a villain. And she almost luxuriated in it, in the sense that every time someone tried to say, but aren't you're this person we expected you to be. And she said, I've always been a politician. I've tried to tell you that, in her received pronunciation, Oxford English. And
with that being said, her being a politician, do you think is because she just kind of thought, I mean, as I hate to say that any kind of genocide is for the greater good, obviously not. But I mean, for her standpoint, being like, if I crack down on this right now and I speak vocally against it, they're going to put me back in jail. And then again, just the military is just going to take over, and then the rest of the Myanmar people are going to suffer anyway. So for her, it was the lesser of two evils to just kind of be like, okay.
Yep. So that's a great read. I think there's two issues at play. First, that's the main one. And that's also the one that she and her followers have used to deflect accusations that she's defending genocide. The other issue is that she just didn't really like those people very much.
Yeah.
And I think, based on everything that we know about what she has said, both the things that she has said. So some people have accused her of being silent on the Rohingya issue. She's not been silent.
Really?
She's been vocal about how she doesn't believe they're citizens. She believes that, as she put it to a BBC reporter once, Muslim power worldwide is very scary, and it's understandable that Myanmar people are afraid of it. And it's like, okay, that's very Islamophobic, but what does it have to do with the genocide that's going on here? Well, what she's trying to do is create a bridge between this very small minority in the corner of the country and a broader sort of global jihad, as if those two are connected, which they're not. And there's been no credible evidence ever linking these broader global jihadist movements that do exist, certainly, to the Rohingya issue. But she's essentially providing discursive cover for that sort of hysteria that would use the genocide as a way of defending the country against a broader Muslim horde. So On one hand, it's definitely a strategic maneuver on her part, 2017 defense of the genocide, and then on all the defense after. But I think it also doesn't betray, right? It doesn't betray anything that she's actually ever said. And so from a human rights perspective, it doesn't make any sense. But from a nationalist perspective, where if you listen to her, revisionism, what she says about herself in the last 10 years, she likes to say, I've always been a politician. I've always been committed to the rights of Myanmar citizens. Now, this is one of the main problems of kind of like global Westphalian liberalism, right? You only have to care for the people who are your citizens. And if these people have been stripped of their citizenship, which happened through a bunch of, political events that take us into the history, including a 1982 citizenship law, all that stuff is a little bit in the weeds. But because the Rohingya aren't citizens, she doesn't really have to care for them. And hence she's able to use them as a sort of scapegoat to make herself look good to both the left, well, not the left, but the center and the right. And actually the irony here is that this pissed off the military a lot too, because they wanted to use the Rohingya issue as a wedge between her and the populace. And she said, no, I'm not gonna let you do that. I'm gonna be as bigoted, as awful as you guys are. And that ended up kind of backfiring. But to just briefly return to that main point is that they did have her taking the blame internationally for this genocide, and they were kind of able to benefit from it. So they had all the control, they had all the power. I mean, basically all the military power. They had all of the economic might. They were, accumulating lots of capital through these massive resource extraction projects. And essentially they were able to keep the money flowing with the West because, you could at least say, well, just wait. It's, growing pains. Things are getting better. Little genocide, we can wait. Right. And what's really fascinating about right now is that this coup has forced people who otherwise would have said, we should just keep waiting. Don't spoil a fragile democracy. We can still get there. And I understand that position. I mean, people are on the ground are devastated, and they had faith in this thing actually turning into something good, even though it probably wasn't that good right now. Now they're forced to reassess. They're forced to say, okay, that thing that we did, that was a sham. And now we have to think beyond it and get beyond the structural condition allowed that to adhere.